Hello, welcome to this webinar, which is aimed at parents and carers, and is showing you all the different options that are available to students after sixth form. So my name is Sue Lewis, and I'm working tonight with Louise Croft. We both work at Career Pilot, and Career Pilot is a one-stop careers website. And as we go through, you'll see how you can use it. So careerpilot.org.uk is a useful website for information and support related to careers. So in this session, we're going to talk a bit about what young people need to do in order to make informed career decisions. Then we're going to show you the different pathways that are available and talk a little bit about the key things the students need to be asking if they're choosing different pathways, and also how you can help your young person and where you can find all the information, which will mostly be through Career Pilot. So this is Career Pilot, so it's a one-stop careers website. And what you can find here is a lot of the information support young people need in order to make a good decision. Now, if they sign in, which they can do here, that means they can access the career tools. And as they're using the site, they can then personalise their choices. So if they look at our job sectors and job profiles, we've got about 800 job profiles. They like one, they can add it in here. And they can add the results of quizzes, etc. That creates a report which they can show to you or their teachers so people can help them get where they want to go. There are also things we call our popular tools at the top here, where you can look at jobs or courses. There's an apprenticeship search, look for providers near to where you live. You can plot your routes on the qualification planner. And there's over 1,000 video stories in the site, all tied into jobs and qualifications. And then we have what we call our three-stage process. So this is a process for making decisions related to careers. So it starts with you, what your motivations and interests. Then you can explore your options in some detail. Then you can use all that information to plan your next steps. And we'll show you how this works in a minute. Or students can go straight in and look at a particular pathway, and then they'll get information and advice specifically about that pathway. So careerpilot.org.uk is the address. Okay, so what does the future look like for our young people? Well, here you can see a mobile phone and all the technologies that the mobile phone has replaced. And since this cartoon was drawn, mobile phones have replaced even more things. We can do our online shopping or banking. We can book a holiday, hopefully soon. We can watch online content or read the news. And this is really the future. There's going to be a huge growth in automation. And you can see evidence of that already. For example, the Amazon shop, which is a grocery shop, where you don't need to scan your items or pay because it's all set up, lots of cameras as you're shopping, and you just go in and back out again with your shopping. And that heart that is in the box, what that shows is how you can now do a 3D printout of a particular organ ready for transplant. And the little dog robot is called Spot the Dog, and he can work in warehouses and go and get things. So it's not about people doing that, it's about something like Spot the Dog doing that. And the final picture shows driverless cars. We've already heard about how they're being tested, and who knows, quite soon might be driving them around the roads. So there's lots of things happening which are to do with automation, and all young people need to be aware of this change. So in terms of planning careers, in our days, maybe it was more like a staircase where you started maybe on one of those stairs and you kind of moved up in a particular progressive way. Really, careers of the future are going to be more like this kind of chaotic mix of lines. And that's why our young people need to be prepared and have a way of being able to deal with this different mix-up of different career options from what we were used to maybe in our day. This is an interesting little bit of research that if a young person's born after 2002, they could live to 100 and they maybe have 17 jobs and several careers in that time. So they clearly need to know how to make a career decision and be able to move from one thing to another. So where are the jobs going to be in the future? Well, in addition to things to do with automation that we've got to be aware of, there are certain job areas that are particularly growing. It's no surprise really that a lot of them in medical, health science and care. Through COVID, they've been very popular jobs and they're going to grow, but they've changed as new technologies come on board as well. and new ways of doing it. Little robots will drop into your ward and deliver things, which might be more hygienic and save somebody having to do some of those less challenging tasks, perhaps. IT and digital is going to grow in all sorts of ways, and I think you can anticipate how that might happen, just talking about that mobile phone, how that might develop, for example. Engineering and construction, there'll be more jobs, but there'll also be different ways of doing things potentially. And then the big one, of course, will be environmental. We all know that we really have to address all the environmental issues. So lots of companies are adapting in order to be able to deal with these things. So there will be lots of jobs for environmental. So to help students understand how they manage their careers, we have got a little video, it only takes 3 minutes to look at it, trying to show students how they can become managers of their own careers by doing 4 specific things. One is knowing themselves. So what are your motivations, your interests, your skills? What do you know about yourself? Because then you can match yourself to a job or a career that might actually be something that really motivates you. Then you could do stuff to build your CV and your skills so you stand out when you're applying against other people. Then know all your options in some detail, and then use all the available supports. That's all of us, Career Pilot, your careers advisors in schools. If you want to watch that video, it's just on the top of our Career Pilot homepage. So in terms of know yourself, in Career Pilot, we've got a lot of activities for students to use to actually find out more about what they're interested in. They could do some quizzes to get started. Our job sector quiz will help them think about job sectors that might appeal to them, start with a subject and see what it might lead. Our skills map will help them think about their skills, or they could plot their qualifications. So just to show you 1 or 2 things, you know what's in Career Pilot. The skills map is used a lot by students, and what this does is ask them some questions of what they've done in their life, their learning, maybe their work, and for everything they tick, it shows them more skills they probably developed through doing that activity. And what they then end up with is a profile of all their skills with actual examples of things they've done. So some will come from the quiz, but they can also add their own. So if they've ever done anything like babysitting or anything they've done, they could put it in, say what skills is given them, and they'll be added in too. So they're building up their bank of skills. And then they can also do something, they can actually compare their skills to a job. So they could put in a name of a job, nurse, doctor, whatever, and see the skills that job requires and look at their own skills alongside it. And it's a good way for them to begin to see what they need to do and if they want a job in that particular area. They can also then use all this information when they come to apply. So all their examples will be there for them. Good for when you're writing a personal statement. There's also another activity like start with a subject. So for some students, it's a good starting point when they're thinking about what pathways they might do. If they've got a subject they love, they can see what it might lead. So they can click on one, and then there'll be examples of jobs, courses, apprenticeships, college courses as well. So that's a good way to start exploring sometimes. So in terms of doing stuff, you know, our message always is don't forget, you know, the number 1 thing is your A-levels or your BTECs when you're in year 12 and 13. But there are other things as well you could be doing to build your CV. Even in COVID, you know, we can still do a virtual work experience. There's lots of digital courses and other courses as well. The free online courses mentioned at the bottom, they come from universities. Don't need any qualifications to do them. You could do them as a parent as well. But they're brilliant for finding out more about a subject, and they look really good when you write about them on your personal statement or application. But the key thing about tonight's webinar is we're going to talk about all the different options available. And I'm going to pass across now to my colleague Louise, who's going to run you through the different options.
Hi everyone. Okay, thanks, Sue. So moving on, let's have a look at these options then. So it's quite, from what Sue was saying, looking at the jobs of the future, a lot of them are going to require higher level skills. That's what the government's predicting. So I thought we'd show the options based on some of the levels of qualification that are options to you, as well as the routes. I thought that'd be useful. So where you're at the moment, so these are the levels. They go all the way from level 1 to level 6, and your son or daughter will have taken GCSEs back in year 11, so they will have level 2 qualifications because they're currently working on their level 3 qualifications. So they're either working on A levels or A levels and BTECs, unlikely to be doing an apprenticeship if you're currently in the sixth form in education. So let's look at the options ahead for post 13, year 13. So we have got the option of starting a degree, which is a level 4 qualification and goes all the way up to a level 6, usually in 3 years, but it could be longer. The other option is to go down a vocational route. These are courses usually offered by colleges. So that could be a course following on from a BTEC at level 3. The BTEC at level 4 is called a higher national certificate. So if your son or daughter's done a BTEC, they might want to continue with the next level in a vocational subject, such as business or IT or something like that. So they can do that at level 4, and then they can continue it to level 5 with an HND, and they can even top it up. And that's potentially at a college or at universities, they can achieve a degree. And they might do that all in one go, or they might go out to work and then do it later. Obviously, the other option that your son or daughter has got is to take an apprenticeship. So we're going to look at all of those 3 options in more detail this evening. Okay, so if you go to Career Pilot, so I'll go back a screen. If you go to Career Pilot, you actually go to choices at 18. You can actually see all of the choices on this screen here, including things like gap year and employment. We know every year there are lots of students who like to do a gap year. Unfortunately, with coronavirus, obviously it's not very easy necessarily to travel at the moment, or maybe over the next 12 months. So you might want to consider, your son or daughter might want to consider having a gap year in the UK and moving somewhere else to start an apprenticeship maybe, or to do something else so they can develop these soft skills maybe that they're looking to gain from living independently or travelling. We also have got information about work experience and work placements. So, for example, as part of a gap year, you could do a year in industry and work for a company and try out what it's like to do a particular job before deciding to go to university or doing an apprenticeship. So, for example, IBM have got a futures scheme where you can work in digital or you can work in business for up to 12 months and get paid about £18,000 over the year before, without any further commitment to that company. So that could be an option that they might be interested in too. Sue also mentioned those free online courses that FutureLearn run, MOOCs. Feel free to try one yourself. These are really useful if you have a son or daughter who wants to try out a subject that they might want to do a degree that haven't already studied, because you can do the course and see if you actually like it, and also include it on your personal statement. But it's essential for courses like dentistry and medicine and veterinary, and there are specific MOOCs, massive open online courses, these free courses that you really are expected to do before you complete your personal statement for those subjects. So we'll be looking at all the options this evening, but that's the main options, but all of the options are on that page there. So check out Career Pilot for more information. So let's start with apprenticeships. These are growing in popularity for the 18 pluses. And we've obviously got these different levels of apprenticeships. And just obviously your son or daughter is going to come out of school with a level 3 qualification. So you might assume that they would initially always start on a level 4, being the higher level qualification. And it doesn't quite work like that for apprenticeships, because they are practical by nature and you are learning to do an actual job. So, for example, if you're learning to be a hairdresser, you're cutting hair. So for many jobs, you have to go back and start at the beginning, as it were. So you might have to start on a level 2 apprenticeship. So, for example, the AAT accountancy training, which works all the way up to being a chartered accountant. If you start with A levels or a BTEC, you do have to start on level 2. So just be aware of that. You will find that there are lots of level 3 apprenticeships available, and these are advertised on the government website, Find an Apprenticeship. And we obviously got links on Career Pilot to the apprenticeship vacancies. So types of level 3 apprenticeships might be things like motor vehicle technician, nursery nurse, business admin, digital marketing, many of those with small and medium-sized companies around where you happen to live without going too far away from home. And you may start on a level 3 and then work your way up into a more management level 4, level 5 apprenticeship. So that can be a good option for a lot of people. However, there are some higher and degree apprenticeships that are aimed at young people, school leavers, who don't have pre-existing experience. And these are, you can find these through Career Pilot on our search, but also you can find them on the Gov website and on other websites like Not Going to Uni and the UCAS website. And these tend to be in very specific areas, which I'll show you now. So they mirror very much the areas where there is demand. So just before I say that, if you know that you want to work for a national company like Royal Mail or Lloyds Bank or Siemens, then there is a really good website called Amazing Apprenticeships, and you can find that through Career Pilot, where you can actually find opportunities for national companies. But be aware of the fact that you might have to travel for those vacancies, as they might not be in your local area. So yeah, as I said, you might have to start at a lower level on an apprenticeship. So I was looking at higher and degree apprenticeships over the last 12 months, and these were the most popular areas, vacancies that were advertised, and they kind of mirror the vacancy areas that's where Sue said there would be ongoing demand, things like engineering, construction, IT and digital, and some sort of health and science related roles. But there's also finance and business too. So you can see they're not in all areas. So there may be some vacancies in things like creative and media, but there weren't very many, and especially not at higher and degree apprenticeship level. So the first thing is your son or daughter, if they're interested in apprenticeship, they need to check out to see whether or not there are actually any vacancies in those areas. Now, these higher and degree apprenticeships are very competitive for school leavers, and the dates for applying often mirror the dates for applying for university. So sometimes some of the competitive courses, apprenticeships, you would need to complete an application by January. So it's worth checking out in advance if there are opportunities that you're interested in, and making sure that you apply in good time. That picture there is actually of some trainees who are at Burgess Salmon, which is a big law firm in Bristol, and they're doing their paralegal training, and they'll be working their way up over 5 years to be a fully qualified solicitor. So more and more roles are opening up to being apprenticeships, and I think there are over 800 different types of careers now that you can do an apprenticeship in, and they're even talking about doing something around medicine and having an apprenticeship for medicine. So that would be quite changing, wouldn't it, compared to what it is at the moment. These roles are also available for adults as well. So sometimes you find that young people don't have enough experience to break in when they're competing against adults, things like police constables. But lots of the yellow ones, they were definitely looking for school leavers in their recruitment. So last year, in the whole of the west of England, there were over 500 vacancies in these roles. But be aware of the fact that if you live in, say, Dorset, you might have to move if they're not available locally. OK, so the other option you've got, which is becoming more and more popular with young people, especially during coronavirus, for people who don't want to move away from home, is to carry on with your learning at college and do a vocational course, as I mentioned before, like an HNC or an HND, a 1 year or a 2 year course. It could also be called a foundation degree. They're very similar. They combine vocational skills and academic learning. And the great thing about these is that sometimes people don't feel very confident initially when they come in and they start on a course. It could be, they're all in vocational areas, so it could be in business, for example. And then after a year at college, they might switch to a higher apprenticeship and then do their second year as a higher apprenticeship, and then maybe top up their third year as a degree apprenticeship, or maybe at a university. So it does enable you to keep learning. A government white paper recently found that students who'd gone through this route, doing vocational courses at college, actually had better earning potential than some students who'd gone to university to do non-vocational courses. So that's worth bearing in mind. The fees are often lower than at university as well, so that's another thing going for them. And often they have lower entry requirements as well. So maybe for HNC, it might only be 1A level. So if you're thinking maybe your son or daughter would like to go to university, but is there anyone else out there who might like to fund your son or daughter in this pursuit, you might consider a vocational degree that's sponsored by an employer. Now, the only thing is, of course, that these are not offered in all areas. So the most popular areas for sponsorship are in finance and engineering, the areas where there are shortages. So in this case, the PwC role enables you to actually go to university, to take part in university as you would a normal student, but you would have some additional training from PwC during the degree, and you would also be expected to work for them in the summer holidays. So, you would earn money during this time, but you would also be working. So it might not have the same sort of holidays as some students would be having. The Power Academy type courses, they're looking to sponsor electrical engineers, but there's lots of these types of schemes, and the universities usually have advertised which schemes you can apply for if you do their course. Alternatively, you can look at the professional association like the Institute of Engineers, and they will tell you which schemes they have and which universities offer them. So check those out there. But as I say, only really useful if you're interested in vocational courses. If you do take a sponsored degree, you might have to work for that company for some time. You might not be able to just walk away at the end of the 3 years. You might be committed. So read the small print. The other option, of course, which is probably by far the most popular option for sixth formers, is to consider going to university to do a degree. And there are over 50,000 courses and over 130 universities in the UK. So it can be quite a hard thing to decide what you're going to do. The first thing you have to do is obviously decide which course you're going to do, and then you have to find and compare a course. And so we've got some suggestions here of things that you can do in terms of choosing a course. Obviously it helps if you've got things that you're interested in. Maybe there's something that's really important to you, for example, like the environment. So there might be a subject you want to do that you couldn't do when you were at school. So something like sustainability or environmental management. Alternatively, if you know what job you want to do, you can work backwards and see what degrees you need to do to get into that job, and then see what you need to, which courses that will be. Alternatively, if you have a subject you really like studying, you can go to Career Pilot and look at our Start with a Subject guide, and that will give you an idea of what kind of jobs that could lead to and what university degrees might suit you based on that. So when you've got an idea of what kind of course you want to do, you then need to compare them. And unlike A levels, where a history course is pretty much the same wherever you go, actual degree courses vary hugely. Just because they have the same name doesn't mean necessarily they have the same content. And then they might be taught in very different ways and assessed in different ways too. So if you're somebody who prefers doing coursework, you'll be wanting to check out to see what percentage of exams you have to take on the course. And some courses are entirely assessed by coursework. So make sure you check that out. The other thing you need to look at is your entry requirements. What kind of grades are they looking for on these courses? And you might be asked to gain certain tariff points. And points are equivalent to grades, as you can see here. An A star is equivalent to 56, and it goes down in 8s, which is a bit bizarre, and the same with BTECs. They're also distinction star is equivalent to 56 points. So you will want to have a look and calculate how many points you have to see that you can get into the course. You can find that information on Career Pilot too. Once you've looked at the course, you've got a short list of courses you like and you can get into them. Then you will also want to look at other things about the university. What's it like? Where in the country is it? And a lot of young people don't actually know where the universities are, I find. So as a parent, it'd be a good idea to sit down with an atlas and just look and say, well, this is within a 2-hour drive, this is within a 4-hour drive, just to give young people an idea of where it is and how they might get there. In the same way, the accommodation costs really vary, and it is worth looking at, especially I know people's financial situations might have changed because of coronavirus, money might be an important issue. So it's important to check out how much money your son or daughter will get to live on at university by doing something called the Student Finance Calculator, which is on the Gov site, and there's a link from Money Matters on Career Pilot. And you can go to that and it will tell you how much they'll get to live on when they're at university. Okay, so thinking about degrees then, some careers require you to do a specific degree, and they're things like dentistry, medicine and veterinary science. They're quite long degrees, and whilst it is possible to get in potentially after you have done a first degree, it does make it incredibly expensive, and there might not be the student loan available to enable you to do that. So it's always best, if you can, to try and get in straight away to save time and money. Some careers you can get into through doing a degree, or maybe from doing a postgraduate one-year conversion course after your degree. So, for example, if you've done a degree in biology, then you can add on a PGCE and then you're a qualified teacher. And you can also do the same with psychology and physiotherapy. And there are a whole range of other careers that you can do that with as well, including social work and speech and language therapy. Many careers are just looking for you to have achieved a higher level or degree level qualification, and don't really mind what the degree is in. So they're just looking for your overall skills that you've developed on the course, maybe work experience, and they're looking for a certain aptitude that you've gained from the degree. So that should be encouraging for all the people out there who are not sure what they want to do and want to carry on with a subject that they love. So I wanted to show you different routes into things, because often young people get quite anxious about routes into particular careers and think there's just only one way in. Well, there are actually often quite a few routes in. So I thought I'd show you this example from nursing. So with nursing, say you had A levels, you could potentially do a 3-year nursing degree. There's 4 different routes into nursing. So it could be maybe say to do children's nursing through a nursing degree. Alternatively, you could do a new apprenticeship, the new 2-year nurse associate apprenticeship, which would give you a foundation degree, and you would be learning on the job with a sort of day release at college. And then you would be able to follow that up with a 2-year, so a shortened nursing degree apprenticeship at level 6. And that would enable you to specialise in an area as well. So you would get a degree over 4 years doing the apprenticeship route, but you obviously wouldn't have any debts. And, you know, obviously it'd just be a year longer. So there's different routes in, and different routes will suit different people. So, but you can always apply for more than one route, I guess. So how can you find out the routes into jobs? Well, you can go to Career Pilot, and we have a job section, and under the job section you can actually type into the search bar the job you're looking for, or you can actually search by job sector. And here's a job here. This is a cyber intelligence officer, so I guess that's in our data and network job sector, and this tells you then the salary that you would earn, the hours that you'd be working, and whether or not there are going to be more jobs in the future for that role or less. And as you'd expect for cyber role, there'll be more in that area. It then gives you the opportunity to actually find out more about the job and look at the specific entry requirements and the types of degrees and apprenticeships that you might need to get into that area. Okay, so I'm going. Sorry about this. Okay, so what are the top 5 things your son or daughter needs to consider now then? So do they know what sort of career they'd like to do? Because if they do, they can research it on Career Pilot and then find out what courses would help them get into that, or whether an apprenticeship would be suitable, and then research those areas. Also, we have got the information on Career Pilot on all of the options at 18. So if your son or daughter's not really sure, and maybe they've researched one area, but they haven't researched another route into the job they're interested in, they could do that too. If they know they want to get out to work, and a lot of young people do, then they really should consider apprenticeships, and they can find out a lot of information by starting with the career pilot section on apprenticeships and reading more about advanced and higher and degree apprenticeships, and look at the different kind of job areas available. If your son or daughter knows they want to go to uni, then I guess it's a question of, as I said, identifying what course they want to do, and they can do that by looking on a career pilot and looking at where they want to go, and also find out about the money available for university. And if they're not sure what they want to do, then there is, so as I said, they can look at the exploring options on Career Pilot. And as Sue said, they can also start with themselves and look at what their strengths are and their interests and what they're good at, and then explore the options. But there is also additional help available in the form of sort of people that you can ask. So, you know, as well as obviously parents and teachers, every school has got a careers advisor, and you should be able to contact the school to make a careers appointment or have a conversation about options after year 13. And of course, we've got career pilot resources too. So, you know, that's a great place to start, really. So hopefully that's been helpful for you. There is a parent zone on Career Pilot too, where you'll find hopefully answers to questions that you might want to know about around options at 18. And there's even a frequently asked questions section, which lots of people find very useful. So I hope that's been some use for you this evening, and you feel a bit more informed about the options at 18. Thanks very much for listening.